All right, so today we are looking at the economic problem. Okay. Now, before we finish with this, these are the objectives. We should be able to explain and illustrate the concepts of scarcity, how it relates to production efficiency and trade-offs, as we use PPF, okay, the production possibility factor. So we will try to explain this, and then we should be able to know how to calculate opportunity cost of producing one good in terms of another good or another service. Okay, and then explain what makes production possibilities expand. How do we experience economic growth? We also look at that, and then we explain how people gain from specialization and trade. Okay, how people gain from specialization and trade. So these are the learning objectives for today. Okay, these are the learning objectives for today. So let's start with the PPF. Okay, the PPF. Basically, when we talk about the PPF, we are talking about the combinations of two goods that an economy can produce. Okay, if the economy is using all its resources at a given level of technology. So assuming you have two goods, okay, you are producing two goods, good A and then good B. What are the combinations of these two goods that you can produce? If you are using all the resources that you have, for talking about resources, we are talking about all the factors of production. So you have combined everything, given the method of production, given the level of technology. So what will be the combinations of the two goods that you can actually produce? That's what we call the PPF. By here, they are defining it as the boundary between the combinations of goods and services that can be produced and the combinations that cannot be produced. Now, by looking at the PPF with the given technology and resources, we'll be able to know the combinations of good A and good B that we can produce and the combinations that we wish we could, but then we cannot produce, okay, because of the resources that we have. So it's talking about the combinations of goods and services that can be produced and then that cannot be produced, given the available factors of production and then the level of our technology. Technology here means the method of production. How are we producing these goods and services? So that is what PPF, how we define PPF. Okay. Now we are able to use the PPF to explain the concept of scarcity and then the consequences of scarcity. I'm sure we remember what scarcity is: the insufficiency of economic resources. Okay, so in the midst of scarcity, what are the consequences? What are the effects of scarcity? We're able to use the PPF to explain that. So we will look at how we use the PPF to explain that. Now, let's look at this diagram here. Okay, we are producing two goods, DVDs, okay, millions per year, and then cell phones, also millions per year. Okay, so the horizontal one is talking about the quantity of cell phones that can be produced, and then the vertical one is talking about the DVDs that can be also produced. The table here will be talking about the various combinations of DVDs and then cell phones that we can actually produce. So now these are the combinations. Okay, these are the various combinations. If you take combination A, okay, please, I hope we have following. Are we together?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. So if you take the first combination, we call it the possibilities. Okay. So if you take possibility A, here we are producing only DVDs. So when we use all the resources that we have with the given level of technology, we can produce 15 million DVDs per year without producing any cell phone at all. We don't produce any cell phone. So that is this combination here. We produce 15 million units of DVDs. Now, if you come to combination F, here too, we don't produce DVDs. We only produce cell phones. And that will be 5 million per year. So that is combination F. So these are the polar cases, the extreme cases. But then in between, we can actually produce combinations of the two rather than producing only the DVDs or just cell phones. So we are able to combine the two. Those are the in-between possibilities from B to E. If you take B, now we are producing a unit of cell phone, which means we have to sacrifice some of the DVDs. Initially, for A, we could only produce 15 units without producing any cell phone. Now, if we want to produce one cell phone, then we have to sacrifice some of the DVDs that we produce. Why? Because we are using the same resources. The resources that we're using to produce 15 units of DVDs, we'll still be using the same resources to produce one of cell phones, which means that we have to take away some of the resources that we're using to produce DVD to go and produce that extra unit of cell phone. So we have to sacrifice some of the units of DVD. So now, if you look at this, what is happening is that the resources are scarce. If they were not scarce, we can just get extra resources and produce whatever quantity of cell phones that we want. But that is not the case. We're using all our resources, okay? I mean, given the level of technology. So before we can actually produce any extra unit of cell phone, we have to sacrifice some of the units of the DVD. All right, so that will be for combination B. Now, if you move to combination C, you see that we want to add one extra unit of cell phone again. We still have to sacrifice some of the units of DVDs. Okay, so you see one consequence of scarcity. There's supposed to be a trade-off. If you want to produce more of one, you have to sacrifice some units of the other good. Okay, so if we take all these combinations, all these points, a line drawn through these points is what we call the PPF. At times we call it PPC, production possibility curve, okay, or the frontage. So PPF, okay, is just a line drawn through these various combinations or possibilities. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Now, when you take the PPF, okay, per the features of the PPF, there are some possibilities that we have to look at. Okay, the PPF tries to show us some possibilities. Now, just by looking at the PPF, you see that per the definition we said is a combination of goods that can be produced and those that cannot be produced, which means that the PPF will try to show us attainable and unattainable combinations. What are the combinations that we can actually attain given the resources that we have? And then our level of technology. What are the ones that we cannot attain? Okay, the ones that we wish we could produce those combinations, but then we cannot. So we'll look at attainable and then unattainable combinations. And then it also shows production efficiency. Okay, it is able to tell us whether the level of production, the current level of production, is efficient or is inefficient. We will also look at that. And it also talks about trade-offs and free lunches. Okay, trade-off is an exchange, as we saw from the first lecture. It's an exchange. When you are trading something off, it means you are sacrificing something to get another thing. But a free lunch, you just get the thing without sacrificing anything. So that one too is another feature that the PPF shows. So we'll take them one after the other, and then we'll look at them. So first, let's look at the attainable and then the unattainable combinations. Okay. Now, I want us to look at the PPF. We'll go back to that. This is the PPF. Okay. Now, we are saying that the PPF can show us attainable and then unattainable combinations of cell phones and then DVDs. Okay. Now, the PPF is seen as our production limit. We cannot produce beyond this PPF. Okay. So the current resources that we have with the level of technology, we can only produce up to a point on the PPF, which means that any point inside the PPF or on the PPF are attainable. All the points on it, they are all what? Attainable. Any point on the PPF or within the PPF is an attainable combination. So if we look at this whole side here, the shaded area, gives us the attainable combinations. If you take something like C, for C, we have 2 units of cell phones and then 12 of what? DVDs, right? If you take a point here too, a point here, we have 2 units of cell phones and then 5 units of what? DVDs. They are all attainable, which means that the current resources that we have will permit us to actually produce those combinations. So any point on the PPF or within the PPF is seen as an attainable combination. Are we together?
Yeah.
All right. But then any point outside the PPF is unattainable. If you take a point like J means we want to produce 4 units of cell phones and 12 units of DVDs. It is not possible. The resources that we have now will not permit us to produce beyond the PPF. We can only do that when we experience economic growth, when there is sustained increase in our production possibilities, when probably there's an increase in the level of technology, an increase in the quality of labor, or we don't have more capital goods. When it's like that, then the PPF will shift. But then until then, it is not possible for us to produce beyond the PPF. So we see the PPF, we see this line as our production limit. We don't go beyond it unless we experience economic growth. So the PPF is showing us attainable combinations of the goods and then unattainable combinations of the goods. So any point outside the PPF is unattainable. A point inside or on the PPF is attainable. Are we together?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that is for attainable and then unattainable. Let's look at production efficiency, efficient ones and then inefficient ones. Now, when do we say that our production is efficient? Okay. Now, assuming, let's take, for example, these 2 goods that we are producing. We'll say that we are producing at an efficient point if by producing more of either DVD or cell phone, we do not, we just have to sacrifice the other good. So if you want to produce more of cell phones and you have to sacrifice a unit of DVD, then it means that initially the point of production was efficient. Now, if we can produce more of cell phones without sacrificing any unit of DVD, it means that the initial production wasn't efficient. So we have efficiency in production, where by increasing the production of one good, you need to sacrifice another good, or you produce more of one, you have to produce less of the other. So how do we use the PPF to explain production efficiency? Let's look at this. Now, we have these combinations on the line forming the PPF, okay? Now, if you want to move from A to B, as we saw, you have to sacrifice 1 unit of DVD before you can get an extra unit of what? Cell phone. So what are we seeing here? We want to produce more of one good, and as a result, we are sacrificing the other. It means that producing at point A is efficient. Okay, efficiency in production means by producing more of one, you have to produce less of the other. So if you move from B, assuming we move from B to C, we want to produce more of cell phones. You see that we still have to reduce the production of DVDs. Assuming we want to move from E to F. E, we are producing 4 units of cell phones. Now we want to produce more, we want to produce 5. You have to what? Still sacrifice some units of what? DVDs. So any point on the PPF is an efficient point. Any point on it, because it is giving a trade-off. Before you can actually produce more of one, you have to produce less of the other. Okay? Are we together? So efficient production occurs on the PPF. What about the case inside the PPF? Assuming point H. Now, what is the combination at point H? Yeah, Frank, what is the combination at point H?
At point H, you are producing 5 million units of DVD per year. and 3 million cell phones per year.
Very good, very good. So now let's see, is producing a point H efficient or inefficient? Let's try to increase the units of cell phones. When we increase it to 4 units, we come to point E, right? Point E. Did we sacrifice any unit of DVD?
No.
No, it means that point, if we produce a point H, is inefficient. We are not using all the available resources. Okay, for us, you see, for us to be producing at an efficient point, a movement from there, if you want to produce more from that point, you have to sacrifice some of the other goods. Now, if we move from point H to point D, you realize we are increasing the quantity of DVDs, but then we don't sacrifice any unit of cell phone. So yes, point H is not an efficient point. Is that okay? Point H.
Yeah, I've got it.
So when you produce on the PPF, it's an efficient point. If you produce inside the PPF, it is an inefficient point of production. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now let's look at trade-offs and launches. Now we know that trade-offs are just exchanges, right? A trade-off is an exchange. You give up one thing in order to get another thing, okay? In order to get another thing. So we are saying that the PPF is able to show us trade-offs. We will look at that. But then a free lunch is just a gift. You get more of one without sacrificing anything at all. Okay, like the H that we looked at. See that we could move to E by getting more of cell phones without sacrificing any DVD. Or we could move to point D, where we got more of DVDs without sacrificing any unit of what? Of cell phone. So let's look at this diagram here. All right, so now, assume we are point E, 5 units of DVDs and 4 units of cell phones, right? Now, if we want to move to point D, it means we want more of DVDs. So wanting more of DVDs means that we have to sacrifice some of what? Cell phones. So movement along the PPF shows trade-off. Okay, if you want to move along the PPF, it shows trade-off. Okay, it shows trade-off. If you want to move from D to C, okay, from D to C means that we still want more DVDs, right? But then we still have to sacrifice some units of cell phone. So whenever you are moving from one point on the PPF to another point, okay, it means that you have to sacrifice one of the two goods, which means we are facing a trade-off there. Okay, that is a trade-off. Now, what about point H? Okay, at point H, we saw that we can move from point H to point E without sacrificing any good. But then we had more of one good. So that is a free lunch. Moving from E to D, that one too was a free lunch. We didn't sacrifice cell phones, but then we've gotten more DVDs. Now we can even move to this point. Let me show you this. We can even move to a point here from point H. We can move to a point here where we are even getting more of both goods. I hope you can see that.
Yes.
So if we are at a point like this, we are even getting more of both goods. I mean, we are not sacrificing anything. So that is a free lunch. Okay, that's a free lunch. So these are the features that the PPF shows us. Attainable and then unattainable combinations, production efficiency and inefficiency, and then trade-offs and free lunches. Okay, trade-offs and free lunches. All right, any question?
I've understood what you thought, but it seems the explanation for the production efficiency and inefficiency, and that of the trade-off and the free lunch seems to be similar, in the sense that in the production efficiency, to be able to get or to know whether you're producing at efficiency, meaning if you want to give out something, if you want to produce more of one good, you have to let go of the other or some of the other in order to be able to produce, and that is where trade-off comes in. So it seems like the explanation kind of looks similar there.
See, we have a trade-off, okay? We will only experience a trade-off when there's a movement, from one production point to the other, okay? So we only get trade-offs when the initial production point that we are moving from was efficient. Okay, so the trade-offs are associated with efficient production. But then the free lunches will come in when we are inefficiently produced. You see that we have inefficient production when we are not using all the resources that we have. That is the reason why we can use the idle resources to produce more of one good without going to take resources that are previously used to produce the other good. That makes it a free lunch. We are able to use resources that were not previously being used to produce more goods. So if that's the case, we don't need to go and pick resources. Let's be specific. We are using DVDs and cell phones, right? So now, assuming initially we are at an inefficient point of production, so some of the resources are not being used, okay? We are producing 5 units of DVDs, 5 units of cell phones, but then there are extra resources that we can use to produce an additional unit of cell phone, which means that we don't have to go and take the resources that are being used to produce the 5 units of DVD to come and produce that extra unit of what? Cell phone. So we just use the idle ones to produce the extra unit of what? Cell phone. So there will be no sacrifice. We wouldn't have to sacrifice any unit of DVD. So that makes it a free lunch. But if when we're producing 5 units of DVDs and 5 units of cell phones, okay, there was no idle resource. We are using up all the resources that we have. Then it means that we are producing efficiently. So what this means is that if we have to actually produce an extra unit of cell phone, then we have to take away some of the resources that are being used to produce DVD to come and produce that extra unit of what? Cell phone. That is why we have to sacrifice some units of what? DVD. Is that okay? So the free lunches are associated with what? With inefficient production. Okay, if we want to move from there, then we get a free lunch. But then when we are efficiently producing, we can only make a trade-off. We can only sacrifice one thing for the other. Is that okay?
Yes, understood. Thank you.
All right. Now, let's look at the concept of opportunity cost. We know that opportunity cost is the best alternative that we forgo, that we sacrifice in order to obtain another good or alternative. Now, using the PPF, we can also calculate the opportunity cost of producing any of those goods. So here we are dealing with DVDs and then cell phones, right? Now, if we want to, do you have a question?
No.
Okay. So now we want to calculate the opportunity cost of a cell phone. Okay, we want to calculate the opportunity cost of a cell phone. So what does this mean? If we want to increase the production of cell phones, what is going to be the opportunity cost? This is how we calculate the opportunity cost. Now, we are assuming we're on the PPF, so production is being done efficiently. If you want to produce more of cell phones, it means you want to increase the production of what? Of cell phones, which means there will be a decrease in the production of what? DVDs. So to calculate the opportunity cost of a cell phone is going to be the quantity of DVD that you have to sacrifice divided by the quantity of cell phones that you will gain. Okay, so just assuming that when we produce an extra unit of cell phone, we have to sacrifice 2 units of DVDs. What this means is that the opportunity cost of producing an extra unit of cell phone is going to be the 2 units of DVDs that we have sacrificed divided by the 1 unit increase in what? In the production of what? Cell phone. So it's the quantity of the one you are sacrificing divided by the quantity of the one that you are gaining. Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So now, assuming that we go back to the initial combinations, okay. Now, for let's start from point A. For point A, we're producing 50 units of what DVDs without producing any cell phone at all. Now, assuming we want to produce just one extra unit of cell phone, so we want to move from A to B. Now, let's look at this table here. The first column is about the movement across the possibilities, okay? This one is the decrease in the DVD. So as we are producing more of cell phones, remember we have to sacrifice some units of DVDs. And then this one is talking about the decrease in and the increase in the quantity of cell phones because we want to produce more. There will be an increase, okay? Now this is going to measure the opportunity cost. The decrease in DVD divided by the increase in cell phones. Are we together?
So the opportunity to calculate the opportunity, that means always the decrease over the increase divided by the increase.
Yes, the decrease in the one that we are sacrificing divided by the increase in the one that we are gaining.
Okay.
Good. So for the first movement, we are moving from A to B, right? So from A to B, we are coming to point B, which is 14.1, right? So we sacrifice 1 unit of DVD. That's what we have here. And then we gain an extra unit of what? Cell phone. So what is going to be the opportunity cost? 1 DVD divided by what? 1 cell phone.
1.
So the opportunity cost will be 1 DVD per phone. Okay, 1 DVD per phone. Is that okay?
Yes.
Now let's move on to the second one. Frank, please just a minute there. Right, now we want to move from point B to point C. So we want to produce an extra unit of cell phone. So moving from point B to point C, we move from 14 units of DVDs to 12. So we sacrifice 2, right? So the decrease in DVD will be 2. The increase in cell phone is 1. So the opportunity cost there is going to go 2 DVDs per cell phone. Okay, 2 DVDs per cell phones. Now let's move from C to D. From C to D, that one we are just gaining an extra unit of cell phone. So extra unit of cell phone. But then how many units of